bipeds. It is I, Christina, here at Fit and Bendy with a medium spicy full body stretch and strengthen. So this is going to get your body energized, warmed up. It's a great prelude to your workout or deeper stretch session. No equipment needed. We're going to start standing. We're going to start by waking up our spinal muscles. So put your feet parallel to each other, right underneath your hips, little bit of bounce in the knees, and we are going to inhale, bringing the chest up towards the chin, squeezing the back muscles, and expanding our rib cage. And then on the exhale, the chest drops away from the chin, belly button pulls in towards your spine, little tuck in the pelvis, pelvic floor feels like it's lifting up, and there's just a little bit of help from our butt muscles. So this movement is deeply tied to our breath. So we inhale on the arch and then exhale on the round. And there are a couple of really important things to check for as you're moving through the sequence to get the most out of it. One is no movement in the head. So what I like to do is just focus on something at eye level out in front of me, like the camera. Maybe you're looking at me, and you try to keep your head still vis-a-vis that object. So just find a single spot to stare at. And we're not lifting the chin up and down. We're lifting the chest towards the chin and then dropping it away from the chin. The other thing to look out for is that I am not leaning forward and leaning back, moving my shoulders forward and back of my hips. My shoulders are staying basically right above my hips, which are right above my feet. So I'm very centered and grounded the entire time. And I'm just making a C curve going forward on the inhale and a C curve going backwards on the exhale. So really focusing on the spine and the muscles that control and support the spine. Oops, let's cut that part. Cut out the burp. Really focusing on the spine and the muscles that control and support the spine. Let's stop in this rounded position, deep tuck in the pelvis, and we're gonna float the arms up in front. Use the arms to help you get deeper into that C curve. So I'm really pulling my rib cage in. Make sure that you're not dropping your head down between your shoulders. Neck is still long, head position hasn't changed. There's a little help from my butt to help me get deeper into that pelvic tuck. And what I'm imagining here is that I'm trying to get space in between every vertebrae of my spine and really energize those core muscles. The side of my waist, the front of my waist, the pelvic floor, even the diaphragm is working a little bit to help round me out even more. From here, just drop the arms, straighten the legs, and move it around a little. All right. Now we're going to take that same movement and layer it on top of a lunge, which is going to create all sorts of exciting things to happen for you. So little step forward with the right foot, little step back with my left foot, both knees bent. So find a little bit of bounce here. And to find the right weight distribution, I'm just going to rock my weight back and forth a couple of times and then stop with that weight forward. So I want most of my weight in my front foot. Check in with those hip bones. I want both hips in one line. If anything, I'm going to cheat that right hip back a little further than feels comfortable. From here, I'm back into that spinal movement. So let's add some arms. So as I inhale, I'm bringing my arms a little bit back behind me to help inspire those back muscles. Exhale, finding those zombie arms. And bonus, on the exhale, you're getting a little bit of stretch through the front of that left hip. So as the pelvis tucks, it's lengthening those hip flexors and helping your pelvis release. So we're really trying on this rounding position to lengthen the spine and the front of the hips, which is something that most people's bodies need a little bit more of in day-to-day life. Length through the hips, length through the spine. Let's do one more inhale. And exhale and stop in this rounded position. Feel that right foot pressing down into the floor. Feel that right butt supporting your body weight. We're going to turn the palms to face each other, and I'm going to twist to the right, pulling that right hip back, opening my chest up to the side. Now this right hip is way back, and I'm going to try to leave it there even as I bring my body back to center. So that's going to make that right butt muscle have to work a little bit harder. My right leg is really supporting a lot of my body weight right now. On this next twist, we're going to stop in the twist, Opening up the body, feeling that deep tuck in the pelvis again. I'm going to bring this left hand to the outside of my right hip, my right hand to my lower back, and I am going to press my back up into my hand, rounding my spine. Then this left hand is going to slide down my leg, just to the knee, maybe a little past the knee if you want to go a little deeper, and then tuck the pelvis under to come back up again. So I'm really working on trying to create space in the spine. Huge thanks to the folks at IKN, Integrated Kinetic Neurology, for introducing me to this fantastic movement that I now use every day in my life. Link to them below. You will love them. Now, the important thing here is that the butt muscles are doing the majority of the work. And as I come back up, I'm really keeping that rounding in the spine, so my abs are working, and I'm trying to give the back as much space and relaxation as possible. So the spine gets to lengthen. Let's do one more, a little bit deeper twist. Stop at the bottom, press that hand into the leg, the back up into the other hand, little bit of a deeper twist. Dropping your tailbone down to the floor as you lift your mid back up towards the ceiling, feeling that right butt say, hello. And then round back up one more time, one vertebrae at a time, and shake it out. So the hope and the dream is that you felt a lot of work in your right glute and in your abs and some release in your spine. Let's do the other side. Left leg forward, right leg back. And again, we're going to feel that rocking back and forth that helps us bring our weight a little further forward into the left foot. So that right foot's really just a kickstand. And from here, I inhale, bringing the arms back behind me, and exhale. Float those zombie arms out in front. So I'm really getting deeper and deeper into that spinal movement. And now I have the distinct pleasure of feeling the stretch through the front of my right hip, which is very grateful for the honor. So I'm definitely adding a little bit of glute in that pelvic tuck to get into the right hip and deepen the stretch. Let's do a couple more. Remember, the head is still totally still here. So all the work is happening in the spine just as it was when both of our hips were in one line. I lied, we're doing one more after that. Then stopping with both arms out in front, turn the palms to face each other, twist to the left. And I'm bringing that left hip back, opening up my chest, deep, deep twist. Keep that left hip back as you bring both arms back to center. Let's do another one. See if you can keep the stretch alive in that right hip by continuing to sink into that tuck, continuing to push that right hip forward. Little bit of activation through the right glute. One more twist. We're going to hang out here and then find that rounding of the spine. Bringing the right hand to the outside of the left leg, pressing the lower back up into the left hand. And then sliding that hand down the leg, just past the knee, tuck the pelvis under to come back up again. So it's a slow movement. It's really all about deepening the relationship that you have with these different muscles rather than going super fast, super hard, right? That's what makes this medium spicy. You should feel a challenge here, but it's mostly about changing some of the relationships that we have in our bodies rather than about going super duper hard and making everything burn and making tears squirt out of your eyeballs. Let's do 2 more of these. Every time trying to deepen that spinal rounding, trying to get more into that left glute. We're going to stop at the bottom, press the hand into the leg into the hand, pull that left hip, press that back up towards the ceiling, around the spine, pull the abs in. Take a breath, and then we're going to slide that hand back up, step in, and shake it out. That should have made your lower body feel delightfully alive. So let's do a little something for the upper body now. So just find a nice solid stance, knees bent, All of those muscles that we woke up are providing the foundation so that we can open up our shoulders. Let's take the left hand to the torso, and we're going to take this right shoulder and just move it up and down. If you have checked out our mild and mellow warm up and full body stretch linked below, this is that same sequence, only now we're standing up, which means we have more responsibility for our torso muscles. Those torso muscles provide the foundation so that our muscles in our shoulders can function properly. Because if our lower body and our torso is all wonky, it's going to make it hard for the shoulders to behave properly because they're sitting on it. Let's stop with that shoulder in the down position and feel that rotation. So, hello, rotator cuff muscles, deep in the shoulder socket. See if you can feel the way they rotate that arm bone. And again, nothing is moving in the shoulder itself, in the torso. It's all happening just in that arm bone twisting, right? So small movements. And we're going to stop with the palm facing away from us, reaching those fingertips down towards the floor. I'm going to lift this right ear up to the ceiling and then bring it back down. So I'm trying to take a very, very conservative lift in this side rather than going super far and trying to touch this ear to this shoulder. It's really more, again, about lengthening something than shortening the opposite for the neck. We really want to be conservative with neck stretches since it's a very delicate part of the body. Let's lift that ear up, and we're going to look down at the shoulder, up at the sky, and that's going to give us a chance to get into the muscles in the side of the neck, see what they're up to. And continuing to move through this, so not stopping in one place for a really long time, I find is a really good way of avoiding getting too deep into this, which can strain your neck or make it feel really nervy. So just keep that movement going. Let's do one more. Down and up, and then bring that head back to neutral. Now, keeping our external rotation, we're going to bring this arm up, stopping with the arm just below shoulder height. So not letting that shoulder ride up. From here, sliding the shoulder blade in towards the spine and pulling it away. So in the mild and mellow, we did this laying on our backs on the ground. It was really easy to figure out if you were moving your arm forward and back. It's harder to do that when you're standing up. So you kind of have to take a little peek out of the side of your eye and make sure that everything is staying on the horizontal plane. So the only part of the body that's moving is that shoulder blade sliding on your back. So this is really an upper back movement, not a shoulder movement. Let's stop with that arm reaching out, feeling that length from your sternum all the way to your fingertips. Maybe wiggle your fingertips just a little. Maybe move that arm back a little further behind you, and we are going to turn the head left away from that hand and back to center. So again, getting into stretching that relationship between the neck, the shoulder, the arm, and the hand. Trying to think of the longest line possible between the fingertips and the ear. Let's do one more. Turn that head away, wiggle those fingers, bring it back to center, turn the palm to face the floor, and press that hand down. Squeeze your armpit, bring the top of your head to touch the ceiling, and shake it out. Same thing, other arm. So right hand is on the ribs just to make sure they aren't moving too much, and let's bring that shoulder up and down. And one of the things that you could really notice on the floor is if you're using your waist to do this movement. So again, you have a little more responsibility when you're standing up. So if you have a mirror in front of you, or you can just really pay attention to what you're feeling in your body to make sure that these ribs aren't moving, the hips aren't moving. It's just that shoulder blade, just those upper back muscles that make this movement happen. Let's do one more up and stop in the down. And here we go with our rotation. Hello, rotator cuff, left side. Maybe it's different than the right side. Maybe it feels a little wonkier, a little better. Always good to just notice which side of your body might need a little extra love and help so that you can give it what it needs, right? As you look down, you want to make sure that your bicep is rotating around the arm bone. So it's not just the lower arm It's the upper arm too. You can feel all those little muscles right in the shoulder socket itself that make this movement happen. And let's stop in the external rotation. So we're squeezing the muscles in the back of the shoulder. And now that left ear lifts up towards the ceiling and comes back to neutral. Such a nice, I really love doing this sequence when I first wake up in the morning, especially if I slept kind of funny and woke up with my neck feeling grouchy. This is a good way of just releasing all these muscles in the side of the neck, underneath the jaw, and that, like I said, that long set of nerves that run from right underneath your earlobe all the way down to your fingertips. Want to loosen those up a little. Let's stop with that ear up towards the ceiling, and you're going to look down at your shoulder and up at the ceiling. And just notice what's going on the left side of your neck, where it might feel a little tighter, where it might need a little extra attention. Well, I do strongly encourage you to keep some movement going. If there's a particular spot, like let's say you look up toward the ceiling and you're like, oh, that feels like it needs some extra love, you can just make some little circles on the ceiling with your chin. It's like you're tracing a little circle on the ceiling. You can switch directions. So you're still moving, but now you're just focusing your attention a little bit more on one area that felt like it needed it. And then let's go ahead and bring that head back up to neutral, keeping that shoulder down. I'm starting to bring my arm up. I'm still externally rotated. So I'm reaching out super long, and let's find those scapular glides. So I squeeze my scapula in and I pull it out, feeling the muscles close to my spine, the muscles right in the armpit, right? Those are the muscles that move the shoulder blade in and out. And getting those muscles strong and flexible and balanced and cooperative, it's just going to make your whole life better. Everything's going to be better from shoulder blade muscles. Maybe, probably. Let's do a couple more. Every time you reach away, you're trying to go a little bit further, get a deeper stretch. And now let's stop with that arm reaching out so far. Pull it back a little bit more, wiggle the fingers, and we're going to turn the head to the right as far as you can go and back to center. So using that scapular movement as you turn the head away, so that long reach to get an even deeper stretch from the left earlobe all the way to the left fingertips. Gradually trying to turn your head around more and more, like The Exorcist, or an owl if you don't like horror movies. All right, let's do one more. Back to center. Turn that palm to face down and then press the hand down towards the floor. The head is lifting up towards the ceiling, taller and taller and taller and taller and taller. And shake out those arms. All right. You ready for some hip compression, hamstring stretch? Let's go to the floor. Find that little arch in your back, that little space between your spine and the floor. And we are going to lift that right knee up, bringing it in towards the chest and lower it back down. Now, if you've tried our more mellow stretch session, this looks very similar, but we are going to make it a little bit more exciting by just straightening the knee a little more. We're not going for a fully straight knee, but we're going for a more extended leg, and that more extended leg is going to make our hip flexor have to work a little harder. And if you're tight through your hamstrings, you might start to feel a little bit of a pull or a resistance from the back of the leg, which is also going to make those hip flexors have to work harder. So we're just increasing the muscularity. If this feels too hard, feel free to check out that other video to get yourself prepared for this one. Making sure those hips stay even. So as my knee lifts up towards my chest, nothing else in the body moves. It's all staying nice and still. Feeling that deep smoosh in the hip socket itself. All right, let's lift that leg up. Little pulses in, feeling that hip flexor work to bring the thigh in as close to the belly as possible. And then we are going to grab it with our hands and lovingly bring it in towards the belly. Deep hip compression. From here, start to straighten the knee. Those knee muscles are working to pull through the tightness on the back of the leg and bend. And you do not have to get your knee straight in this particular sequence in order to get a stretch, right? All that matters is you can feel these knee muscles working. The thigh stays glued to your belly. You got a little bit of arch in your spine. You should be able to get your hand underneath there. And you can feel how those knee muscles pull on the tightness in the back of the leg. So unless you have crazy flexible hamstrings, you're probably not going to get all the way straight, and you don't need to in order to get the benefits. All right, let's stop in that extended position. And now we're going to flex and point the foot. And what most people will notice is that as that foot flexes, the stretch gets a little bit deeper, a little bit more intense, and that's groovy. We can feel that and enjoy it. We can do some circles with the ankle here. Don't forget to include your toes. Get that nice mobilization through the ankle joint. I'm still squeezing those knees, by the way. Switch directions. Nice big movements here. And then just release the leg. I'm going to let go with my hand. So now only hip flexors. And now I am going to try to straighten that knee out all the way. That means that your leg might need to move away from your belly a lot. That's okay. But try to find a straight knee and a flexed foot. And we're going to hold this leg shape as we start to lower that leg down towards the floor. And I am shooting my leg long out of my hip. I'm trying to touch it to the wall. I'm going past the wall. I'm going down the street. I am lengthening that leg out of the hip socket. And once that leg hits the floor, I'm trying to continue the movement. I'm pressing the leg down into the floor as if it could just keep on going down to the center of the earth. So I'm using the muscles in the back of the leg, right underneath my butt, to make that happen. Make sure that you're not arching your back, so stay nice and strong through those abdominal muscles that we woke up when we were standing up. All right, lengthen that out. And now we're going to drag that right heel in and repeat on the other side. So evening out the hips, little arch in the back, lifting that left knee up, bringing it in towards the chest and lowering it back down. A lot of control here, a lot of control. So I am shortening my hip muscles as I bring that leg in, and I'm not just letting gravity take my leg to the floor. I'm controlling the descent with those hip flexors. So they're working, getting shorter, and they're still working, getting longer. So I'm really getting control over my hip flexors and feeling how they work no matter what position my leg is in. All right, on this next one, we are going to hang out. So I'm going to lift that leg up. I'm feeling those hip flexors work, and then I'm going to pulse that leg in towards my chest. Just squeezing it in a little tighter, trying to get that thigh towards my belly. And now, grabbing the back of the leg, snuggle that leg in. See how deep you can get it into your body. Snuggle like a teddy bear. Then holding that leg in place, we find the knee muscle. Start to straighten the knee just as much as you go, keeping the thigh in place, and bend the knee. So feeling the relationship between that knee muscle contracting and whatever tight situation you might have in the back of the leg. There are two sides of this joint. There's the top side of the knee joint and the bottom side of the knee joint. And here they are having a relationship, and we're trying to use the top side of the knee joint here to stretch the back of the knee joint here. And this is just a nice, gentle way of starting to stretch out our hamstrings, right? Starting to wake them up. All right, on this next one, we're going to stop with the leg extended and flex and point the foot. And this starts to potentially bring a little bit of a nerve stretch into it. So when you flex that foot, it might feel a little bit nervy, and that's normal and okay, unless it feels super painful, in which case you might have gone too far too fast, maybe a little bit more mellow. And let's do some big circles with the ankle, tracing a circle on the ceiling. And switch directions. Don't forget to include your toes. Toes always get to come to the party. All right, now, foot flexed. I'm going to take my hands away and straighten that leg up towards the ceiling. Squeezing the heck out of those knee muscles. Those hip flexors are working, shin muscles working, whole top of the leg. And those muscles are controlling the descent of the leg. So it's like a drawbridge going down. And all that control of the drawbridge comes from the hip. Make sure that your back does not arch. Once your leg hits the floor, use the muscles underneath that left butt to press it down into the floor as if it could just keep on going. And see if you can feel those hip flexors now getting nice and long, sliding that foot just a little further away from you to feel the length through the front of that left hip. And then slowly drag that leg in. And let's come on up to sitting. Let's mobilize those hips. Go ahead and lean back on your hands. Feet planted on the floor. If you go a little wider, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. So find the hip width or feet width that works for you. And we're just going to go into our windshield wipers. Seated windshield wipers feel a little different than laying down windshield wipers. And I find them to be so lovely that I throw them into everything because they're just a great way of checking in with your hips and feeling what's going on with them and getting them prepared for what comes next, which is going to be rotation. So let's stop with both knees over to the left. And you have the option of continuing to lean back onto your hands if sitting up feels unpleasant for your hips or knees. So 2 options. If you are sitting up straight, we are just going to twist the torso to the left, squeezing that right butt. If you're leaning back on your hand, you're going to be on your left hand, and we're twisting as far as we can and trying to open up the front of this right hip. And then we're going to go the other direction. So we're going to put this butt down. We're going to twist towards that right internally rotated leg. If you want, you can be leaning on your right hand for this. So if you're leaning back, it's just going to look like a transition from one hand to the other. If you're sitting up, it's the same movement, just not using your arms. And we're really feeling our obliques here. So we're getting a lot of spinal twist happening, and we're feeling the relationship between the spinal twist and what's happening in the hip. Going through that extension through the front of the hip and then the compression as we turn towards the hip. And the hope is that this is going to loosen this hip up a little bit and really get it feeling a little extra juicy. All right, now we're going to twist to the left and walk the hands out to the left, leaning to the left, leaning over that left leg. You can just move your body side to side a little bit here. You might feel a stretch in the outside of that left hip. It's a little bit like a pigeon stretch, just a little bit more gentle. And then we're going to take this right leg and we're going to extend it out straight behind us. And that is going to internally and externally rotate here. So I'm just rolling my leg back and forth across the ground like it's a log. And I'm feeling the muscles in my hip sockets that do that. I'm letting my hip move a little bit with it. So there's, again, that relationship between the twisting of the pelvis and the rotating of the leg to just get that leg to loosen up a little bit over time. Now on my next external rotation, I'm going to go ahead and go all the way out until that left butt hits the floor. My butt and the back of my thigh are on the floor. And I'm just going to come into a little side bend here. So you can be on your hand here. You can be on your elbow, whatever works for you. You just want to make sure that that right butt doesn't come up off the floor. It stays down. From here, we're going to do some big shoulder circles. So I'm using that shoulder flexibility that I said hello to in my warm-up to help me get deeper into my side bend. Let's switch directions. So arm's going to go the other way, big circle around. And I'm using my right butt to really keep that leg and hip glued down. Let's stop with the arm up over the head. That right hand is going to reach as far out as it can one direction. Left foot's going to reach out the other direction. Long, long line. Big breath into that side body. And then come on back up to center. Good stuff. Lean back onto the hands. Windshield wiper again. Oh, that right hip feels a little bit looser now. Isn't that nice? Should we do the same thing for the left side? Let's move both knees over to the right and keep your hands down or sit up, whatever feels groovy for you. And we're going to twist right, pushing into the opening of that left hip, and then left, that left butt sinks down. So big movement here. This is just a wonderful way of kind of exploring what's going on with the relationship between the torso and the hips, feeling when they're working together right now, when they're working separately, what needs a little bit of extra attention. Let's do one more twist. Right and left. And the next time we twist to the right, we're just going to hang out over here, and I'm going to lean over that right knee just a little bit and see if maybe you can get a little bit of a stretch through the outside of that right hip. Hopefully it feels good. You can kind of rock it back and forth here. A little wiggling. Muscles love wiggling. And then I'm going to take that left leg and I'm going to extend it out long. And let's roll it back and forth. Just rolling it along the floor. Using the waist muscles to get a little bit of movement in the pelvis. And different leg positions will feel stretches in different places. So it really depends on where you're tight or where your hips are creaky that you're going to feel this. And it's just good to know and notice. Let's come to that external rotation, and we are going to slide that leg out till that left booty hits the floor. And we're going to come into our side bend. So either hand or elbow down. And I'm trying to get that length. Left foot to left hand as I go into my big shoulder circles. If I were shooting rainbows out of my fingertips, I would be trying to make the biggest, giantest rainbow possible with this arm. Let's switch directions. Bring it down in front of you. Twist that chest a little bit towards the ceiling and reach up overhead. So really stretching out that side body along with the front of that left hip. Let's stop with the arm up overhead. Reach that left hand out. Left toe goes out the other direction. Find that deeper external rotation. Use it to press that left butt down into the floor. Big breath into that side body. And then push with the left hand to lift up to sitting. All right, we're going to stretch out our butt a little bit because that's always a good idea. No one wants a tight butt. All right. Both knees bent, both feet flat on the floor, a little closer together. And we're going to take that right leg and cross it over the left leg into our figure 4. The closer your hands are, the more you're sitting up, the more challenging this is going to be. So if you want to lean back a little bit more, if you want to lean against a wall, if you don't like holding yourself with your hands, all options. We're going to find a little bit of a pulse with the butt just to move that knee away from us. And then we're going to go into our same spinal movement again. So we're going to arch the back, squeezing the lower back muscles to tilt the pelvis forward, and then tuck to tilt the pelvis back. And what you will find is every time you go into the arch, it's going to create a deeper stretch through the butt muscles. And that's really what we're going for. We're trying to create a stretch in the butt and the hip using our back muscles, our spinal muscles. And again, playing with that relationship between the position of the spine, the function of the spinal muscles, and the hip position and the hip muscles. It's all connected, friends. Let's do one more. We're going to stop in that arch position. Just deep breath in. Breathe. Squeeze muscles right above your butt to lift your belly button up towards your calf muscle. Just a little bit more. Bring that knee away from you. Good times. Switch sides. Left leg up. Starting with some little pulses. Squeezing that left butt muscle, bringing that knee away from you. And when you feel that that hip is warm, it's there, let's get into our spinal movement. So use your back muscles. Now, if you find that you're mostly just moving your chest, that's probably not going to give you the same results like what you're really looking for. So see if you can make sure that your pelvis is what's moving. So I'm actually feeling my weight rock back towards my tailbone here and then lift up onto my sit bones here. So you should feel that weight shift controlled from the spinal muscles, the pelvic muscles, right? Lower back squeezes here, lower abs, pelvic floor squeeze here. The whole thing, I'm always in control. I'm never just letting gravity do whatever it wants with me. I'm moving my body purposefully through all of these shapes. All right, let's stop in that arched position, lifting the belly button up towards the calf. Big breath in here. Move that knee away from you one more time. Get deep into that hip stretch. Should feel good. Hopefully feels good. All right, one more breath and come on out. And we're going to find straddle. So this does not have to be the world's deepest straddle. If you did our mild and mellow workout, this one might be a little bit deeper than that. So you're getting a little bit of inner thigh stretch because we warmed that up a bit, but it's not going to be like crank, 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 crazy deep straddle. And from here, start to move the body side to side. And we're going to walk the hands forward. And as you do that, go ahead and take a look at your feet and your legs. And you want to make sure that they're not moving forward with you. So what we don't want are for the feet to start to tilt forward too much. We're really trying to anchor them in place using our butt muscles. And then once you get to a point where you're like, I'm starting to feel a little bit of stretch here, this is getting to be kind of real, you're going to place your hands on the floor and spinal movement. So how do you feel the stretch differently when your back is arched versus when your back is rounded? And can you move your spine and minimize the movement in the legs? There is going to be some movement in the legs. It's impossible to keep them completely still, but we really want to minimize it. And we want to feel how when we squeeze our back muscles, it's a different stretch than when we squeeze our abdominal muscles. And we want to be flexible in both positions, not just one. You want your torso and your limbs to be able to relate to each other in all sorts of different positions to give you the most control and awareness over what's going on in your body, to really make sure those joints are healthy. If you want now, you can walk your hands a little further forward. Same thing, little bit more spinal movement. And I like to stop in the arched position. For me, that's where I get the most exciting feeling. So I'm reaching my chest forward, I'm squeezing my butt muscles, I'm trying to get my feet vertical. They're not quite there, but they're close. Move the body side to side a little bit here. And then walk the hands back in. Reunite your legs. Shake them out, shake them out, shake them out. All right, thank you everyone for doing our medium spicy workout. We have mild to 5 alarm linked below, along with a whole bunch of other flexibility stuff, super nerding out with me. Thank you for being here, and as always, many happy bendings.